Let's light this so we can get into the video. Today, we're gonna be doing part 2 of my Korea series. And in this one, I'm gonna talk to you guys a little bit about university life and what it was like to apply. If you're interested, make sure to keep on watching. And before you go, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for 7K. I'm really excited and really grateful that you guys are excited as well. So yeah, thanks. I feel like I didn't really like my hair up. Having one of those days where it's just like so poofy and I don't really know what to do about it. As I said, today I'm going to be answering questions about university life, specifically in Korea. First thing that I want to touch on is applying to university. So as I mentioned in my previous video, I applied to 3 or actually maybe 4, I don't really remember, universities in Korea. I applied to Seoul National, YONSEI University, Korea University, and I believe there was one more, but I'm not sure, maybe Hanyang. I did get declined from Seoul National, which I wasn't really surprised about just because it is a really difficult school to get into, even for foreigners. I didn't go fully through with Korea University because by the time their deadline was, I had already been accepted to UIC, YONSEI. Basically how I applied, it's very simple. It's all online and they have all the information about deadlines on the UIC website. I believe you're able to apply through the common application, which is just like the online thing that I believe Americans use to apply to university. So I did fill out a common application for UIC, and I also remember having to send a bunch of documents to them. This was a little difficult because they do have a deadline for when you need to get the documents into them, and obviously since it's Korea and I lived in America, it was very last minute sometimes, and I had to expedite these documents to make sure that they would come on time. Be very punctual with the deadlines. Don't put anything in jeopardy just because you're not managing your time well. That being said, I did also take the TOPIK exam, which is a proficiency in Korean exam. I don't believe that the TOPIK is necessary, especially for UIC, but it is necessary for some other universities because other universities do require you to have a certain amount of knowledge of Korean because I do believe some of their classes are in Korean. I don't remember what I got. I got a pretty high score and I remember submitting it to UIC, but UIC is all taught in English. It's the English department, the English speaking department of YONSEI. So all the classes are taught in English unless you take classes under normal YONSEI and not UIC. The thing I do want to make note of is that all the deadlines for Korean universities are a little bit later than American universities. I think I found out that I actually was accepted in May. I had the round of documents to get through, and then they let you know if they wanted to interview you. After I think a few weeks, they let me know that they wanted to interview me. You speak on the phone and they ask you a few questions. Questions that they asked me were basically just about the major that I chose because I said I wanted to do an English major. So they had people from the English major just converse with me about what book I'd recently read and why I liked it and why I like to read, and just tell them a little bit about myself. It was really laid back, nothing too scary or nerve-wracking, and they were super nice over the phone. And a few weeks later, they did actually send an email saying that I got in, and I actually got a full ride scholarship. The way I got that was on the application online. There's actually just a little box you can tick. I don't know if they've changed it now because this was in 2016, obviously. A little box you could tick that said, I would like to apply for a scholarship, and I ticked it and I got a full ride scholarship. I know a lot of my friends got partial scholarships, some didn't get any. So I'm not really sure what it depends on. It might be your grades or something else, but I'm not really sure. I was on high honors in my high school, so that could have had to do with me getting financial aid as well. Like I said, I did find out around May, so it was super late. So all those events that you might have at public high schools, like Spirit Week, where you dress up for your university, I couldn't participate in any of those. Now, I had applied to a few universities in New York State as just like a safety net, and I was accepted to a few of them, so I knew I was going to university. So on that day, I just kind of repped that university. For the first year at UIC, you're actually required to stay in the dorm, and the dorms are located in Songdo, which is not in Seoul. It's about, I think, an hour and a half from Seoul, if you take the subway for a whole year, you will be outside of Seoul. You will not be on the Seoul campus because they do have a Shincheon campus and they have a Songdo campus. But all freshmen must stay on the Songdo campus. I believe you can live outside of the dorms and commute if you'd really like to, but you still have to take your classes on that campus for the first year. Some majors even have to stay at the Songdo campus for more than a year. So if you're interested in going to a university that's in Seoul, make sure that when you apply, if you're applying to UIC, you're applying for a major that maybe has classes in Shincheon and not just in Songdo, because there are some classes that do require you to stay most of your time of university in Songdo campus. Songdo campus was really interesting. It was really secluded, but I think that was a good thing for the first year because we were all dorming together and we were kind of forced to get really close. So I did make a lot of great friends, had RA activities that encouraged our houses in our dorms to meet and get along because we were all categorized into houses depending on the floors that we lived on in the dorms. Dorms were super, super, super clean and beautiful. They had a cafeteria in there that would serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner if you went at the right times, which was really cheap. It was like 1,000, 2,000 won per meal. I think maybe even less sometimes. There's also a library, a computer lab, convenience stores. So if in the middle of the night you wanted to get a snack, you could. And the rooms were great. There were 2 and 3 and single rooms. So actually on my first semester, I got room with 2 other people besides me, which was not my choice. I actually asked for a double room, but they did not give that to me. It was pretty terrible because the rooms were really small and I had to sleep in a bunk bed with one of my roommates, which wasn't ideal, and I have really bad sleeping habits, especially insomnia, and when people are loud at all during the night, I cannot sleep. For the second semester at Songdo campus, I actually requested a single room. You can do that if you have a medical condition, and I do have insomnia, so I did tell them that and they respected that. And obviously you do have to pay more for a single room, so it's not like they just gave me the single room and I, just got it for the same price. No, you still have to pay more for a single room. I did unprivate a bunch of my videos from the times that I lived in the dorms, so if you want to go watch that, you can check it out right here. There's going to be a little card that pops up. Songdo campus was amazing. Nearby it, there was a little town called Campus Town. There's also something now called Triple Street, which is this huge mall kind of complex. So it's really up and coming there in Songdo, so it's really nice. And don't be discouraged that you have to be there for a year. I promise you it's going to go by like this because you're going to have so much work to do the first year. And you're gonna have a lot of fun. There were a lot of cute little bars there, a lot of, fried chicken places. Our tradition at UIC, especially at the Songdo campus, was to order DD chicken, which is a brand of chicken in South Korea, fried chicken. And it basically, we used to always get the home set, which came with a few different flavors and like rice cake. And yeah, that was really good. So I just have really fond memories of sitting on the steps in the dorm and eating chicken with my friends. So once you're moved into the dorms, a few weeks in will be the time where you apply to your classes. First year, actually, you apply to classes on a quickly clicking basis, which is really, really, really annoying. And I didn't like it. No one that I spoke to liked it. They open the portal where you can apply to classes at a certain time for all freshmen. We all had to log in at the same time, and basically you're allowed to fill out a wish list of the classes that you would like to apply to. And then once it's time to actually apply, you basically have to be the quickest clicker to get your spot in the class. If you're not quick enough, you get waitlisted, and a lot of times you don't get that class because so many people can be on the wait list if it's a popular class. I'd have to end up taking a lot of classes that I didn't like, or just classes with different teachers or at different times. Next 3 years after that, there is no quick click system. What you have to do is basically a wager of points. So you get, I don't remember how many points, but you get like these credit points, and you're allowed to kind of bet on each class. So if you really want a class, you would bet a really high number of points, And if you don't want it, you would bet less. You won't get everything you want, but at least it's not a quick click system, because that can be really unfair based on just Wi-Fi. A lot of people would go to internet cafes where they had really, really quick high-speed Wi-Fi and they would get every class they wanted. I went to the computer lab in UIC, I wouldn't get anything sometimes. I would recommend that for applying to classes, go to a PCbang, which is what they call them in Korea. Those have amazing high-speed Wi-Fi, and I promise you're gonna get more classes. Obviously, schedules are always going to look different, but I recommend you really squeeze in the classes at the very first few years of your university life, because when you're a senior, you're not gonna wanna take that many. You're in Songdo campus and all you're there for is to study. I really recommend you take about 21 credits per semester. 19 is the least I would do per semester there. When you go to Shincheon campus, there's gonna be a lot more distractions. You're in Seoul, you're in the heart of it all. You're gonna wanna have fun and not do homework all the time and not study all the time. The way it works when you have a full ride scholarship is that you have to keep above a certain GPA every semester to maintain your scholarship. It will be reduced by half next semester. If the requirement was that you had to keep up over a 3.0 GPA, which is pretty easy. I remember, unfairly so though, a lot of my friends who the first semester had a full ride but didn't do so well and got under 3.0 GPA, they just got a warning. But a few semesters in, when I got under 3.0 GPA, I didn't get a warning at all. I just got straight to half. I found that to be really unfair to give certain people a pass and not me. I understand it's the first semester and people are adjusting, but for me, the difficulty was when I moved to Shincheon campus. It's like I said, it's so distracting, and Shincheon campus is beautiful. It's right next to Hongdae, right next to Ide. You're gonna wanna hang out with your friends, and I did not want to do all this homework anymore and write all these essays, so I kind of decreased my productivity that semester. But I wasn't given a warning, which I do still feel as though it was really unfair. And I expressed that to them, but they didn't listen, so hey. Tuition itself is about $4,800, I believe. I don't know the full conversion. So even if you're paying full tuition, it's so much cheaper than it would be in the United States. If you're staying in dorms, you do have to also pay for dorms. When I moved to Shincheon campus, I got my own apartment and I was paying 480,000 won a month, which is about $460 a month. My first apartment was in a basement. It was a one room and it was terrible, but it did the trick. It was super close to campus. I walked like 5 minutes every morning. My second apartment was near Ide, so it was a little further from Shincheon. I could still walk, but obviously I had to get up a little earlier, but that one was wonderful and we had a wonderful landlady, and I actually roomed with my best friend Mila, and that worked out really well. So I do recommend something more like that. Don't get a basement, you need sunlight. Don't do what I did, it was really bad. I think that semester that I lived in the underground basement, I've never been more depressed in my life. All I did was go to school and then go to my dark apartment and do work, and it was just really soul crushing. If you're a foreigner that doesn't have family there, you need a place where you feel comfortable and at home. And if you don't have that, you're gonna feel really displaced and really uncomfortable. So I do recommend finding a safe and nice place to live if you're not gonna live in the dorms. But the dorms are amazing, they're wonderful, they're clean. On campus, they also have dorms. However, you have to apply for these dorms and you don't always get in because they are pretty popular. So it's not like Songdo where you're just guaranteed a place if you apply. No. My major was called Comparative Literature and Culture, which is basically an English major. We would study things like music, art, books, writing. So it was kind of like an overall English major, not really focused on just writing. I did actually want to be a creative writing major specifically, but UIC did not have something that specific for me. It just had CLC, which I thought would be fine. And I did enjoy CLC, don't get me wrong. There are amazing teachers under CLC that I just will cherish for the rest of my life. Loved a professor called Lauren Goodman. He's amazing. If you go to UIC and take a CLC class, I really recommend the Dreams class by him. Also a professor called Ji-hoon, and he would teach rock music classes, and they were absolutely my favorite, and it just felt like I was hanging out. Things about CLC I also didn't like. I feel as though UIC is a little, shows a lot of favoritism towards other majors like econ majors or international studies majors, which I understand just given like the pressure in Korea to succeed. At the beginning, when I first applied to UIC, we would get about 18 class options, and now it's reduced to about 13. So if you're CLC and you obviously take classes under your major each semester, it's really hard in the last semesters, which I'm in, to finish with your major credits because there's not a lot of options for classes you can take that you haven't already taken. Each semester, there's gonna be some classes that you've already taken because they repeat them. They are really bad at offering new classes for CLC, and that's a big complaint that I had with them and expressed them so many times because I did see them spending budgets on other things that seemed really pointless and not on our major, which was really frustrating. We would have a lot of teachers as well that were really terrible and just didn't treat us right, and we would express it and weren't heard unless the whole major said something. And even then, we had a teacher who was extremely sexist and would say really racist things in class and things about, just terrible things. And so we reported him because he was making people cry almost every day in class. All of us as a major kind of wrote about it, and he really wasn't fired. Nothing was done. I think he was just given a warning, but nothing really happened. So there are gonna be some teachers that you're not gonna like, unfortunately. I say talking to people and finding out what they think about teachers is so important because a teacher can make or break the course. There are required courses at YONSEI. You have to take critical reasoning, you have to take a Korean language class. There's a whole list of them. Critical reasoning was one that was really difficult for me because I'm not good at math. And I didn't realize that I would have to take a critical reasoning, which is basically kind of math in words class. Because UIC is a liberal arts college, they do require you to take some base courses. With critical reasoning though, is that I took it twice because the first time my teacher was so unhelpful and terrible and just like unwilling to respond to my emails of confusion and help me because in this class, you had to download a certain program to do the homework, and I didn't understand how to use the program, but the teacher wouldn't help me. So I decided to just stop going to the class and take it another semester because you can retake classes if you fail or drop out of them. I stopped going, and then I took critical reasoning a few semesters later when I went to Shincheon campus, and I had a wonderful, lovely lady teaching it, and she was very patient and kind, and I finally was able to pass. But the teacher I had in Songdo campus was absolutely terrible, and I'm pretty sure he still teaches there. So I would just be extremely careful with the teachers you're picking, especially for your base classes, because those are things you have to pass and those will make or break you. The thing I wish UIC was a little better at was providing resources for those who are foreigners in Seoul. Say resources, I mean things like mental health help, or even just better advisors. I was assigned an advisor who is largely unresponsive to emails and wouldn't want to meet up to talk about things. So when I had a problem, it was very, very difficult to be heard or even schedule an appointment to be heard or even send an email to be heard. And I still to this day email that advisor and not really get much back. So I do feel like there should be way more resource and way more help for foreigners. I know there's some universities in Korea that will buddy up the foreigners with someone who's already there so they can give them information and help them out if they have a question, But UIC had absolutely nothing unless you went and sought out someone else to help you. So it was really, really frustrating to me, and it still continues to be. I never actually dropped out of YONSEI. I took a leave of absence. The plan was to transfer to a university here for my last year and finish. Because of COVID, next semester is going to be online for them. So I've decided to do that semester online. Classes are going to be online completely, but some of them are going to be scheduled. So I will have to probably stay up. Still deciding if this is the best option for me, but we'll see. I do think it's definitely a possibility that I will go back to UIC for my last year or even just one more semester. All this being said, I think it's really, really important that before you apply to a university in Korea, like UIC, that you really want to go. Because living in Korea for 4 years is gonna be a change. It's gonna be something that you're gonna have to adjust to in one way or another, just because it's a different environment, different people, different culture, different language, everything. You're gonna have to be a little bit ready to be outside of your comfort zone. The workload, I felt like it was a lot, but I'd imagine it's probably the same amount as any university. Obviously, we had finals, midterms, and we had papers. Sometimes we had oral exams. Usually professors were only going to choose one thing. I did have professors that took that suggestion with a grain of salt and gave us all 3 things to do. Not every class is just gonna give you a test or just a paper. And throughout, you're definitely gonna have a lot of work. So make sure when you're applying to classes, when you're putting them on your wish list, you really read through the little synopsis that's provided, because it will tell you the requirements and what the teacher is going to do, whether they're gonna do a final exam, a paper, an oral exam, or all 3. And I will tell you for sure, details influenced a lot of decisions I made on classes and whether I wanted to take them or not. Sadly, even if a teacher is good, sometimes I would not take their class just because of the workload, because being an English major, there were so many classes that required us to read an insane amount, because if you take into account how many other classes I had been taking that also required me to read that much, it was humanely just like not possible for me to read that much every day. But I would say that a lot of it was just kind of like winging it and kind of hoping for the best. I studied constantly. Every day after school, I would go to this cafe called Pattern Ethiopia. It was in Hongdae. I think it's closed now, unfortunately. It was my favorite. Me and my best friend Neela and roommate, we would go and study and do our work basically every day. But it still wasn't enough to read everything I was assigned. So that just goes to show you how much work you're gonna get. You're going to have to be good at time management and deciding, okay, this time is when I'm gonna write this essay. No matter what, I'm gonna sit down right now and finish this essay. Hope that was informative. I feel like it was a little bit all over the place, but I feel like I had so much to say, and I still have a lot left to say, so I can always make more if you guys have more questions. Yeah, like I said, I might be a UIC student again next semester. You have to make that decision basically this week because applying for classes is in a few weeks. It's in August. So if you're interested in hearing about that journey, make sure you follow me. My Twitter is Abril Louisa Rios. My Instagram is Abril L Rios. Love you guys so much, and I hope that was helpful. Let me know your experiences if you went to university in Korea, or you're applying, or you're interested in applying. I'd love to help you guys out in the comments if you have any extra questions about anything I said. So feel free to leave a comment. I'll see you guys in the 3rd installment of Life in Korea.